Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Hit the Apex. I'm Charlie, and I'm joined by Omondi. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks, Charlie. Nice to be back on the channel. Yeah, second week or second race of the season, and it's looking good. Looking good.
It is. It is. Just before we get going with what happened overall in the weekend, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. Just before the race, actually, F1 did release a statement saying Formula One and the FIA can confirm that following discussions with all the teams and drivers, the 2022 FIA Formula One Saudi Arabian Grand Prix will continue as scheduled. Following the widely reported incident that took place in Jeddah on Friday, there has been extensive discussion between all stakeholders, the Saudi government authorities and security agencies, who have given full and detailed assurances that the event is secure. It has been agreed with all stakeholders to maintain a clear and open dialogue throughout the event and for the future. Of course, this is about the attack on the Aramco facilities, who are actually the name sponsor of Red Bull this season, with that being 10 kilometres away from the circuit. That was a bit worrying, weren't it, on Monday, when that news came out?
Worrying for who? For the race organizers, because they were saying the race might not go ahead because of this. There was a bit of doubt, wasn't there?
Yeah, for the safety, really.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to be an issue like that, safety of the race or anything. There's so much money involved in F1. I don't think it would. I think it's just a bit of drama, and I don't. Yeah, I'm not going to get into politics and that kind of thing, but I think when in Rome, that sort of thing, and we just have to respect other people's countries and what goes on there, and we can't point fingers and say that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, because they could do the same to what goes on in the West, for example. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the West which could be deemed as wrong in their eyes as well. So when we're in their country, you have to respect what goes on, and they got a guarantee of the safety, which nothing had happened in the end to the race or to the sponsors or any kind of thing like that. So sometimes I think things could be overreact, and there's always fingers pointed at Saudi Arabia for their human rights and things like that. But I just think there's got to be a balance. You have to look at yourself as well sometimes when you're sort of pointing fingers like that, and because not the whole world is a mess, and no one can take the higher moral ground and say you're wrong, you're right. It's everyone's up to no good. So yeah, it's I'm glad the race went ahead, and yeah, not very good to see all this sort of negative stuff before a race.
Yeah, definitely not. We'll talk about the Grand Prix as a whole then. What was your thoughts on the Saudi Arabia Grand Prix?
Obviously, yeah, it's like deja vu. We were only there a few months ago, weren't we, for the final race of the last season? Obviously, now I'm getting used to the track and the conditions and everything, and I did feel that it's more of a street race, isn't it? So I did feel that there would be more incidents and crashes than there was, but it turned out to be okay. Obviously, so fast. I mean, they've got their foot down for the majority of the race and for each lap. It's just it's not my favorite track, but it was a very interesting race. And once again, we're talking about the front two, and Max got the better of his man this time with a nice calculated move, which for me was the highlight of the race.
Yeah, definitely. We'll look back at the practice sessions then, starting with FP1, of course. The standings for FP1 looked like this: Leclerc, Verstappen, Bottas, Sainz, Gasly, Tsunoda, Perez, Ocon, Hamilton, Alonso, Ricciardo, Stroll, Norris, Guan Yu Zhou, Russell, Hulkenberg, Albon, Latifi, Schumacher, and Magnussen, who didn't end up setting a lap in FP1 due to issues with the car. And an overview of FP1, Leclerc tops FP1 with Verstappen and Bottas second and third. Nico Hulkenberg was racing again with Sebastian Vettel still having COVID. Carlos Sainz close to a new deal at Ferrari, and Red Bull weren't expecting the same issues they had in Bahrain for this race in Saudi Arabia. What was your thoughts on the standings there and some of the things on the overview?
Yeah, good, really good bullet points there. I think I'm looking at Lewis and Mercedes. I would like them to get back in the mix and get their car sorted, but they're like second and a half off the top time there. At least Hamilton was. George Russell was behind that, so they still got a lot of work to do. And it's still looking like Mercedes and Red Bull up top, challenging.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, just say Carlos Sainz thoroughly deserves a new contract with Ferrari. That's good news. And when you get a new contract, it's done. It's deserved. You have to ask yourself two questions: is it deserved? For one, and is there for two? Sorry, is it deserved? And I forgot what I was going to say now. You have to. Is it deserved? And what are the terms and everything else? What would he be saying when he signs a new contract? Is he going to say, I'm the number one driver? Does he? I don't know. What conditions would there be in the contract for him? Would he would he bow down and say, yeah, Leclerc's the main man? Is that still that hierarchy within teams? Do they sign the contract knowing there'd be a B driver? I don't know. There's a lot of things I'm really curious about. I'd love to know what goes on in the contract. But for me, with the question regarding is it deserved, I think it is. He's done really well for the team, and as you can see, at the start of the season, they're up there, firing away.
Yeah. And then next up, of course, being FP2, the standings were very similar, with the top two again being Leclerc and Verstappen, followed by Sainz, Perez, Hamilton and Russell further up the standings there. Norris, Ocon, Bottas, Tsunoda, Alonso, Gasly, Schumacher, Stroll, Ricciardo, Hulkenberg, Guan Yu Zhou, Nicholas Latifi, Alex Albon and Kevin Magnussen again at the bottom. With the overview, Leclerc and Verstappen resumed the rivalry at the top of the timing sheets from FP1, and they finished in the same order as they did in FP1 in FP2 as well, with the Ferrari man having a 10th lead over Verstappen. Magnussen and Tsunoda stopped out on track with mechanical issues, and as he says again there about Nico Hulkenberg racing for Aston Martin. What was your thoughts on FP2 standings there, Omondi?
Well, I said in the first FP1 that Hamilton was like second half, Mercedes was second half off the pace, and now they're only like half a second off the pace. So I was excited at this point, thinking, okay, maybe Mercedes will be sort of pushing up there, and getting a lot closer, as it seems. So Lewis and George Russell were pretty close. Overall, yeah, I mean, to get down to 130s for the times there, it was true pace. I think we got to 128s, 127s for pole, maybe. I think it was 127 for pole, yes. So that's a lot of time. So practice, you can't always gauge what goes on in practice. They're obviously working out little strategies, or not giving too much away, or just checking pace, checking certain corners, whatever they're told to do, and you don't see a true pace necessarily. And they probably do it on heavy loads as well, checking out different tires. But so we're seeing there 130, and then we're going to come on to it now, I imagine, but in the qualifying, you're getting times 127, which is close to a record, maybe.
We can remember last season Verstappen was close to the quickest lap in F1 history if he didn't hit the wall on the final corner.
Oh, he's flying, wasn't he?
Saudi. Yeah, he was flying on that lap. And finally, FP3 looks like this. Leclerc, Verstappen, the top two again, followed by Perez, Sainz, Bottas, Ocon, Gasly, Magnussen, Alonso, Tsunoda, Hamilton, Schumacher, Guan Yu Zhou, Russell, Stroll, Ricciardo, Albon, Hulkenberg, Lando Norris, and Nicholas Latifi, with the overview looking like this. Charles Leclerc topped all three practice sessions with a 0.033 second lead over Verstappen. Pierre Gasly suffered reliability woes, which cut his sessions short, and it was another hot, dry, and windy day in Saudi Arabia. What's your thoughts on FP3 there, Omondi?
Yeah, same again. It's Max and Leclerc really fight out. I mean, there's not much in between them at all, and they are sort of separating themselves from their B drivers, or so-called B drivers. Whatever, if they still got opportunity to be the A drivers, but you're seeing a bit of class coming through now from versus Perez with Max and Sainz with Leclerc. They're sort of clear, head and shoulders clear. And it's very competitive at the top between the two cars.
Yeah. And a stat on FP3, all Mercedes powered teams were in the bottom 10, which is slightly worrying for Mercedes there.
What do you think that entails then? Why do you think Mercedes are not doing so well with their Mercedes powered teams?
I think maybe they've got it wrong at the start of the season, but I think they will improve over the season. It's totally opposite to what happened at the start of the turbo hybrid era, where Mercedes got it spot on. They were miles clear in 2014 and just dominated for the next 7 or 8 years, didn't they?
Yeah. So when, I mean, if it doesn't change, when would you say it's a complete write-off? I mean, because something's got to happen, and you've got to see some sort of development in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I reckon maybe round 4 or 5, just after round 2. This one, of course, we got Australia next, and then we're off to Imola, I think. So I reckon if there's no improvement by Imola, I'd start to get worried if I was a Mercedes fan, to be honest.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. So on to qualifying then. After FP3, of course, the grid looked like this. Perez stuck it on pole for the first time in his F1 career after having 215 qualifying appearances, with Leclerc on second, Sainz, Verstappen, Ocon, Russell, Alonso, Bottas, Gasly, Magnussen, Norris, Guan Yu Zhou, Lance Stroll, Daniel Ricciardo, Lewis Hamilton in 15th, with Albon, Hulkenberg, Latifi, and Tsunoda after Mick Schumacher having that big incident in qualifying, which meant he didn't take part in the race. Tsunoda also didn't start due to reliability issues. The overview. Sergio Perez grabs pole for Red Bull, his first in F1. Hamilton, Albon, Hulkenberg, Latifi, and Tsunoda were out in Q1. In Q2, it was Norris, Ricciardo, Guan Yu Zhou, Schumacher, and Lance Stroll. A lengthy red flag in Q2 after Mick Schumacher crashed. The team have confirmed that he is okay and he is expected to be racing in Melbourne next weekend. So what was your thoughts on qualifying, Omondi?
I think the big news is Hamilton. What went wrong with Hamilton's car? I mean, after I'm looking on thinking there must be a problem here. But he said, I'm really sorry. He's on his radio, said, I'm really sorry, which suggests to me that maybe everything was okay because George Russell qualified to the next stage. But he didn't. I don't know what's going on there. It's really confusing to me. You always think Lewis Hamilton, 7 times world champion, he's a top driver. He can make the most of the car. The car's not definitely not deserving of being out, judging by the practice and the qualifying we've had previously in Q3. Sorry, Q1. Sorry, Q1. Yeah, so I'm really shocked by that, and I think an inquest needs to be done as to what's going on with Hamilton. Is it his car or is it Hamilton? What's going on with him right now? That was really shocking. It's kind of like, obviously, because we want it to be competitive. So when I'm watching the race and seeing him going out like that, I'm thinking, wow, is it really that bad out here? And then I'm seeing Russell do better, and I'm thinking, okay, so maybe things aren't that bad. But I haven't heard much since then. I don't know if you've got any insight into what's happened there.
No, no, I'm not sure, to be honest. I think it was just a bad day in the office for Hamilton on Saturday. And then the race looks like this. We'll just quickly go on full screen to see the race result. So Schumacher and Tsunoda didn't start in this one. Albon, Bottas, Alonso, Ricciardo, and Latifi all DNF'd with the two Alfa Romeos, the only two to stop in this race twice. There. And then it was Lance Stroll, the only driver to be lapped in this one, with Nico Hulkenberg. He gained 6 positions from the starting grid, with his fastest lap being the 11th quickest. He pitted once and lost 21 seconds in the pit lane. Guan Yu Zhou, 11th, so 10th and 11th for him in the first 2 races. There, and he gained 1 position from the starting grid. Hamilton got a point, gaining 5 positions in this race. Magnussen and Gasly gained a position each for 8th and 9th. Lando Norris gained 4 positions for 7th, with Esteban Ocon losing a position for 6th, with George Russell gaining a position for 5th. Sergio Perez losing 3 for 4th. Leclerc and Sainz stayed where they were. Leclerc also got the fastest lap in this one, with Verstappen gaining 3 positions from the starting grid, which meant the points: Verstappen 25, Leclerc 19, Sainz 15, Perez 12, Russell 10, Ocon 8, Norris 6, Gasly 4, Magnussen 2, and Hamilton with 1. What was your thoughts on the race result there, Omondi?
Really unfortunate for Perez. I mean, there was like RKO out of nowhere getting the qualifying fastest lap and starting number 1 on the grid. Only, and then he gets a first refusal with decision making, that kind of thing. He goes in the pits, and then there's a safety car, isn't there? And that messed him up really bad. I felt so sorry for him, because I thought him leading the race, he could have dictated to Max, and then we would have really seen who's got priority. Would they have pushed for Max to overtake him? Maybe, who knows what could have happened there. But Perez obviously done well, had the pace with the qualifying, but yeah, really must be feel gutted. It's how much bad luck is that? As regards to the race, the finishing, George Russell done pretty well, coming up is top deep in the top 10, mid 5, 6 or 7.
Yeah,
I think
5th, I think. Yeah.
5th. I see Magnussen is up there again following last week's great performance. He was in the mix. The Alpines are not doing too well, I don't believe. I think Alonso and who's his partner?
Ocon.
Yeah, they were doing all right, but struggling a bit. But yeah, just for me, I'm really keeping my eyes focused on the top 2, the Red Bulls versus Ferrari. And I just want to see who's going to be this consistently the 3rd place team, which you assume would be Mercedes, but there's a door open at the moment for someone else to come in and be the dominant force in 3rd.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the race?
Yeah, well, it was good battling again between Leclerc and Verstappen, which we saw in Bahrain last weekend. Quite a few DNFs as well. 2 drivers didn't start. It was a chaotic race as a whole. Hamilton did quite well to get a point. I thought it could have been better, but a point is a point, and he's starting in 15th, gained 5 positions. I think that was the most any driver did from the starting grid. Leclerc with the fastest lap, that could be crucial at the end of the season as well. So the race overview then. Verstappen wins, overtaking Charles Leclerc late on. Perez is 4th after being unlucky in the pits. Latifi crashed. Alonso and Ricciardo stopped on track, with Albon and Lance Stroll colliding towards the end of the race. And then we got this graph, the Saudi Arabia lap gaps for Leclerc and Verstappen. The yellow line means there was a safety car. White line means it was a virtual safety car. You can see Leclerc was mostly on top, and then Verstappen late on, he nicks it to win the race, doesn't he?
I mean, it was really good strategy by Max, wasn't it? Because it was like he was in second place, and then he knew if he overtook, then Leclerc would have the DNF. What do you call it? Not DNF. That's not did not finish.
DRS.
DRS. Sorry, excuse me. And would take him back. So he had to time it correctly. Don't ask me the details. It's been a few days now, but the way he timed it and sized him up, it was a really good strategy, and I have to applaud Max for that. And there was nothing Leclerc could have done about it in the end. It's just unfortunate, isn't it? We're starting to look at this new era now. We're looking at like the advantages and the disadvantages, and it does seem sometimes where if you are in second, you can maybe judge it better, or sometimes better. Like this race proved to be in that sort of position and then learn how to overtake and then get ahead. You know, rather than overtake, get back in straight away next corner, someone's overtaking you again. I don't think that's right. I don't think that should be like that. It's just I want to see how it pans out, because there we saw someone who worked out from last week in Max. Okay, remember what happened to him last week, being overtaken on the next straight. This time around, he's sussed it out. He's realised how it works and made the most of it at the right time. And it was a great victory for Max, I believe, when, like you said, the Ferrari was ahead of him the majority of the race. But once again, yeah, my heart goes out to Lewis Hamilton, because when that safety car came out, he was in mid 6th or 7th or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and that was really unfortunate. He would have got a lot more points, and obviously he couldn't pit, so he had to he couldn't pit at that time. So he had to pit because he was going a long run on hard tires. He had to do a second pit, didn't he? Change his tires, whatever. And then, for Perez as well, I think Perez must be kicking himself. Just really bad luck. But yeah, like I say, how this season is a long season, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot of development and a lot of change, you know. And I just want to see more competitive races. I know we are competitive at the moment. We've got Red Bull versus Ferrari, but like I keep saying, I want to see another car, maybe the Mercedes, come back in the mix, and for Lewis to be going head to head with these guys, because we're seeing some really good top draw quality racing. They're not really touching each other or crashing into each other as yet. But if we get Lewis in that mix as well, or even George Russell with Perez, and it's going to be fantastic. Imagine a front row of Mercedes, say. Red Bull, then a Ferrari, then a Mercedes, then a Ferrari, and all going for it. The strategy is going to be millimeters, nothing in it. So, yeah, that's what I want to see, a 3-horse race.
Yeah. We'll look at the drivers' standings then. Leclerc stays at the top, even though Verstappen won, with a 12-point lead over his teammate Carlos Sainz. And then Verstappen is in third. He's gained 16 positions up the driver's standings after Bahrain last weekend. George Russell is in fourth with Lewis Hamilton in fifth. He's lost 2 positions. Ocon has gained 1 position, into sixth. Perez up 11 positions into 7th. And then you've got Magnussen and Bottas both losing 3 positions. Norris up 5 positions. Tsunoda loses 3. Gasly up 8, and then you've got Alonso, Guan Yu Zhou, Schumacher, and Lance Stroll all losing 4 positions there. Nico Hulkenberg stays in 17th, with Albon and Ricciardo losing 5 positions, and Nicholas Latifi at the bottom losing 4. What's your thoughts on the driver standings there, Omondi?
Ocon is doing really well with points, ahead of our man Alonso. Just looking at I was looking at the. Can you go back into the graph? Yeah, I was looking at the McLarens as well. Same as last year. Norris, Daniel Ricciardo. What is going on with him? It's going to come a time when you think, is he still got it? Has he still got it? You know, I thought he was a class driver, but what's going on with him in the car? Williams, terrible. I mean, wooden spoon Williams is terrible out there. Let's have a look. Yeah. All I can say, I think Norris and Ricciardo and Magnussen and Schumacher. I know Schumacher didn't race, but Magnussen's doing really well. Have to give the guy credit. Come back like that.
Yeah, definitely. And the constructors' standings then look like this. Ferrari with a 40-point lead over Mercedes, with Mercedes somehow still above Red Bull, who are in third. They've gained 7 positions in the constructors. Alpine go up a position with 16 points. Haas lose 2 positions down to 5th. Same with Alfa Romeo. Alpha Tauri lose 1 position to 7th. McLaren go up a position to 8th. Aston Martin and Williams both lose 2 positions as well. What's your thoughts on the constructors' standings, Omondi?
Yeah, Ferrari. I mean, because of the Red Bull, obviously didn't finish first race. They're well behind. They've got a lot of catching up to do. And at this stage, Ferrari in pole position, and they want to try their best to maintain this lead now. Get both drivers, maybe offering the contract to Sainz now, get him on board, make sure they both get points. And it could just be a case of, what do they want more? Do they want the constructors or do they want the drivers' championship? And I think they want the constructors' championship after being away so long. And because with a points lead like this now, they've just got to ensure that the 2 drivers are sort of consistent now. That's the most important thing. And also, I just want to add, your graphics are unbelievable this week. You've been putting the work in, haven't you? Those graphics with the minus and the points and everything else, everything's there to see. It's really good.
Yeah. And we've got to start here with the team standings compared to after 2 rounds last season. You can see we'll go off the 2021 standings. You can see Mercedes have dropped to 2nd. Same with Red Bull, they've dropped to 3rd. McLaren have dropped from 3rd all the way down to 8th. They've not had a good start. The opposite to Ferrari, who are at the top, of course. Alpha Tauri have dropped a couple of positions, the same as Aston Martin. Alpine go up a couple, same as Alfa Romeo. Williams go down a few, with Haas gaining quite a few positions from at the same point last season there.
Yeah. Oh, wow. It's shocking, isn't it? I mean, these are 2 different eras. Rather than say it's one season after another, that was the end of one era, and we're in the birth of a new era now. So I don't think there's really stands up comparing the 2. Even though we've got Max. I mean, the Red Bull's consistently up there. Red Bull hasn't really dropped off at all. They're still one of the forces, as they were last season. But Mercedes have got it all to do. And like I said, the McLaren, they need to get on board and get with the program fast. Sorry, McLaren, they got Mercedes engine.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Your graphics are flipping good, man. I mean, everything's there, and I like the bullet points as well. Just as a summary, that's a really good addition to the show.
Yeah. We'll start with the drivers then. First up being Mick Schumacher in the Haas. Of course, he had that big hit with the wall in qualifying. Haas tweeted, "We heard that Mick is conscious, out of the car, and currently on his way to the medical centre." And then Mick Schumacher has been assessed at the medical centre. The assessment revealed no injuries. He has been transferred to King Fahd Armed Forces Hospital in Jeddah for precautionary tests. And of course, after that, he didn't participate in the race. And he tweeted, actually, "Hi everyone, I just wanted to say that I'm okay. Thank you for the kind messages. The car felt great. We'll come back stronger." What was your thoughts on Schumacher? Of course, he got to Q2 after his hit, but it was a big incident, weren't it?
That was a massive, massive crash. You do worry, don't you, in these sort of tight speed street courses, when if you're going at that sort of speed and you just one little mistake and bam, When I saw that, I thought, wow. And then there was a bit of a delay before they actually went over to him and realized he was okay. I mean, it's just, it just shows you how high risk this sport is. And you can put as many safety measures in place as possible, but those sort of speeds and with that sort of skill, it's just, we just don't want to see things like that too often. I'm glad he's fine. We just pray that there's no more major accidents this year, but this is what we get with the sport. You can't say that because it's going to happen. There's going to be further accidents, but fair play to the cars and the course, the way they respond. The cars keep the drivers safe now. We saw what happened, someone like Senna, that when you see things like that, anything happened, something could, that was very, I think something hit smashed through his helmet or something like that, didn't it? At that time. But these drivers getting the safety aspect is getting really improved, and that was demonstrated with that crash there. But Haas, I think they're doing okay. Their second driver is, at least. Mick needs to step it up.
Magnussen, of course, having a great start after returning back to the sport, as you've just said there. So next up, the other driver that didn't start the race. Luckily, this wasn't due to a big crash, but Yuki Tsunoda in the Alfa Tauri. He was having mechanical problems all weekend, and on the formation, on the outlap to the formation lap, his car just broke down, and there was no getting going in the race on Sunday. It's just an unlucky weekend for Tsunoda, really, isn't it?
Real gutter. I mean, you imagine he's getting ready, the nerves, you're ready to go, and then suddenly you're not going anywhere. It's gutting. I mean, especially someone who's second season now and wanting something to prove something now. You want to get out there every race, and opportunity missed. So they need to sort out whatever's going on. We saw what happened with Red Bull last week, and this week it's Alfa car really struggling out there, and whatever technical problems they got there, hopefully they get them fixed ASAP so these drivers can really have a go at getting points for them.
Yeah, definitely. Next up is Nicholas Latifi in the Williams. DNF'd in the race. He crashed out in qualifying as well. Is he good enough for F1?
That's a great question. At the moment, the answer is no. Based on last season, you have to evidence why you believe you're stating something. I'm saying no, based on last season and based on this season as well. Poor start. I mean, he's becoming a laughing stock, always getting a wooden spoon. What do you think, Charlie? Because I'm saying no. I don't think he is good enough. I think there's to be F2 drivers who could probably say, what's this guy doing in the car? Give me a seat in that car and I'll prove something,
Yeah. Well, for example, the F2 champion from last season, Oscar Piastri, he doesn't have a seat in F1. So I bet he's not happy that Latifi's took his spot. Of course, there was only one driver last year from F2 that's in F1, and that's Guan Yu Zhou, who isn't doing bad at Alfa Romeo at the moment, to be fair to him. But in my opinion, I'd agree with you there. I don't think he's good enough for F1.
When do you think it becomes a decision? Because someone gets rewarded a new contract in science. What do you think they'd be saying to Latifi? What would be their expectation now?
To improve performances, he needs to stop crashing the car for a start, and then because he crashed in qualifying, crashed in the race, it just was a shocking weekend, and he didn't get anything going in Bahrain either, so it's not been impressive yet for Nicholas Latifi in the Williams. Next up, who you mentioned before, also not doing great last season and at the start of this season, Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren. What was your thoughts on his weekend as a whole?
You take Latifi out, and all eyes would be on him. Thank God for people like Latifi. He's like he's got a big name. Daniel Ricciardo's been there. He's done that. He's been at the top with one of the top teams in Red Bull, competing, winning races occasionally. And now it's like he's dropped off McLaren aren't doing great, but Norris is beating you, and your car's not. You don't seem to be suited to the car. You expected this season to say, all right, maybe fix things and get everything sorted. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe he's not putting enough effort in. Maybe he's living a party lifestyle, or thinks he's James Hunt all of a sudden, and living it up and going up doing other things. I don't know. I'm only speculating because he does seem like a nice guy. Does seem like he's a bit of a rock and roll guy, Who knows what's going on with him? But he needs to. I like the Daniel Ricciardo breaking late, taking people on, beating people to corners and overtaking and being in the mix and really being exciting. We haven't seen that Daniel Ricciardo for a long time, and week by week goes by, and we're always having this conversation, aren't we, Charlie?
Yeah. Big up Bargav in the chat. Hope you're well, mate. He also got a free place grid penalty for blocking Esteban Ocon's flying lap in Q2, which was just stupid, to be honest, weren't it?
I mean, when it don't rain, it pours. It's what's going on, Daniel, man? Yeah. Come on. We want Daniel back. Let's sign a petition. Dan, we want you back. The old Daniel Ricciardo,
Yeah.
I haven't seen, to be honest, Charlie, I haven't seen many interviews with him. So I can't tell about his demeanor and how he's, his mood. But surely he's got to be disappointed, or maybe he just doesn't give a damn.
Potentially. There's potential for that, definitely. Next up, from Daniel Ricciardo and Nicholas Latifi, who haven't been performing well at all, to a two-time world champion, Fernando Alonso, in the Alpine. He no points, but a brilliant performance from Alonso nonetheless. Will be interesting to see what he can do this season. Do you agree with that, Omondi?
Yeah, I mean, look, when we're talking about guys who've been at the top level, Daniel Ricciardo, Lewis Hamilton, and when the chips are down and they're down in the middle of the field and that sort of thing, how do they perform? How do they get that motivation? But it seems like Alonso, he went away from F1, he's come back. I think he's motivated. I think he's got something to prove, not just to anybody, not to us, but to himself. He wants to maximize it, get the best out of his car. And we have to judge his performances based on his car and his teammate as well. That's the only way I can really assess him. Obviously, his teammate's ahead of him at the moment, being a bit unfortunate, with a couple of races. But top driver still, and it's someone I do look out for. And I do think that's an interesting statement that we should still keep our eyes on Fernando Alonso, because I think there's a lot more to give with his motivation, his drive, not driving, but his drive, his personal drive with his character. I think it's on a high at the moment. So let's go, Alonso.
Yeah. Next up then is, of course, the new man at Alfa Romeo, Valtteri Bottas, joined from Mercedes last season. How do you think he did this weekend?
Yeah, done all right. He was up there with the qualifying. I think he beat his teammate. That's for sure. I like Bottas. I like what he's representing now. I think there's always a question mark about whether he was a good driver to start with for Mercedes to pick him. And it turns out he is a very good driver, consistent. I think he's got a record, hasn't he, of being qualifier going to the top Q3 in successively. Sorry, I can't get my words out today. I think it's a record, isn't it? He's got like 200. I don't know. I can't remember the record.
It's 103 consecutive Q3 appearances, which is...
You and your freaking graphics. Did you know I was going to say
that? People say I'm a mind reader. I must be.
One button, it just comes up. That's really good. Yeah, so when I saw that, I thought, wow, that Bottas. I know you've been with Mercedes, but he's keeping it up with Alfa Romeo. They must be delighted to have him.
Yeah, as you said there, 103, that's a brilliant stat. I think that's the start of the 2017 season. I might be wrong with that, but I think it's something like that. Next up, a new driver as well at a new team, Alex Albon in the Williams. Just before we ask you how we think he did, he got awarded a 3-place grid drop to be applied at Australia for his Turn 1 incident with Lance Stroll. 2 penalty points have also been added to his super license. So that tweet alone just shows it weren't a great weekend for Alex Albon, was it?
No, certainly not. I can't remember the incident. What was the incident in the first lap?
I
Did he
think
touch?
he tried a stupid over. Well, he tried going down the inside and outbroke himself and went into Stroll, I think.
Oh, yeah, I really can't remember. But yeah, fair play. I mean, what's the deal with the penalty points thing? Is that something that stays there and gets triggered if he does it again?
I think it's something like if you have 12 points or something like that at the end of this, at some point in the season, you get a race ban.
Oh wow,
No,
wow, they're not messing around, are they?
no.
And so is he the
No.
first person to receive penalty points this season?
I think so, yeah. I think so.
Okay, I think that's a good way to go forward. It does avoid these reckless driving, and people have to be mindful. And obviously, because you're thinking, well, I'm not paying for this car. Latifi, for example, he's every time he crashes and causes damage, it's not coming out of his pocket. So there has to be some accountability for the team, you know. So yeah, Alex Albon, the Williams is not doing well anyway. I mean, he
No.
at least he can say he's doing better than his teammate.
Well,
Which
that's not very hard, is it?
we can tell his kids that they might not understand yet.
Yeah,
The team
yeah.
really bad.
And the first driver that didn't DNF actually, Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin. They're not doing well either, are they? At the minute, Aston Martin 0 points as well as Williams.
Are they waiting for the return of our man Vettel?
Potentially, he will be back for Australia, which is good news for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to see when Vettel comes back, whether there'd be more like whether Lance Stroll will step it up then. But obviously, last 2 races, not very good results. Ferrari, they got a Mercedes engine, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's like separating now. The Mercedes engines teams are not doing too well at all, and they really need to step up. And right now, as we speak, they should be working overtime to try and sort out this problem and get up into scratch. Because if they do, and all these Mercedes engines do start performing, it's going to be much better action up the front.
Yeah. And his teammate Nico Hulkenberg filled out for Sebastian Vettel for the first 2 races in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. He's not done much really in the first 2, has he?
Not really, no. He's going to go away now and be forgotten for the rest of the season because Vettel's going to come and just keeping the seat warm, I suppose. But yeah, he's had a great career. He's always been there or thereabouts, even though I don't think he's ever won a race. I'm not sure he's ever won a race in his career, or podium. I'm not sure, but he's always been a name, mid-table, good racer, and he should be proud of his career and being who would have expected him to be racing first 2 races of this season. So credit to you, Nico. Don't know what you're going to do next, but yeah, great career.
Yeah, I am just trying to have a look if he's ever won a race. I'm not sure, to be honest.
I don't think he has, no. But he's always respected. He's a good driver. I think he's a good driver.
Yeah. We'll move on anyway before we get too tired on Aston Martin because there's not much to talk about, to be honest. Next up, Guan Yu Zhou in the Alfa Romeo, 10th in his first race, 11th in his second race. He's been quite good for them so far, hasn't he?
Yeah, good start, isn't it? I think the Chinese will be going crazy. And when we get round to that Chinese Grand Prix, it's going to be something to watch. I'm sure the atmosphere will be off the charts. So yeah, he's done well. Unfortunately, Lewis pipped him to that point this time around, but last week obviously got that point, and his confidence was pretty high. Remember what he was saying is, I think you gave a quote last week from him how delighted he was of getting that point, and that would just he'd be gutted. I mean, it doesn't matter if you come 11th. It doesn't matter. You might as well just come 20th because you're still not getting any points in a way, you know. So for him, but being so close, it's gutting for him. And I'm sure he's someone at the moment who's one of the most excited going into this season and going into the next race. He's going to be, I don't think he feels the pressure. I think he's just going to enjoy it. And the expectation, even though expectation is really high, being the first Chinese Formula One driver, I think he can handle it. I think he's doing really
Yeah.
well. And I, like you say, I just loved his reaction, what he showed me last week with his quote for getting that point in his first race. So, yeah, all eyes on you,
Yeah.
Zoo.
Yeah. We actually do have the stats here of Nico Hulkenberg. He's been on pole once in his career. That's 0.5% of his races. That was the 2010 Brazilian Grand Prix. He's had no wins, 2 fastest laps, 97-point finishes, so that's just over 50%. Just over 20% of his races. He's retired. He's started on the front row twice. With a total of 521 points. His best ever result is third. Is
Oh, he
fourth,
has been
sorry,
podium. I was going to say.
fourth.
Okay.
With that being 3 times, so never been on the podium. And he's been in the sport quite a while, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the one that stands out to me is the 50% in the points whenever he was racing. So, yeah, that shows you he sort of fighting against the odds with his car, maybe, but yeah, always in the mix regarding getting points, battling out mid-table, not mid-table. I'm thinking of midfield.
Yeah.
Still mid-table, midfield. We can't get football out of our brain.
Yeah. Yeah, even though it's the international break, it's still there. Isn't it? Next up, then the first driver in the points, Lewis Hamilton, in the Mercedes. He got knocked out in Q1, his first Q1 elimination since Brazil 2017, and he scored 16 points in his first 2 Grand Prix this year. That's his lowest points tally after 2 races since 2009. So those stats aren't showing it's been a great start for Lewis, has it?
2009.
Yeah.
I'm shocked by that because I thought even like 2010, 11, the McLaren wasn't in great shape, was it? But he still managed to sort of have more points at that stage of the season, you know. But yeah, there's a lot of work to do, a lot of question marks about Lewis Hamilton right now. Even though it's over only 2 races, and even though he's a 7-time world champion, you expect to see Lewis outperforming the car and really fighting to get up there and to get, like he did last week, which I felt was a bit fortunate last week because of the 2 Red Bulls. But this week he was a bit unlucky, obviously, like we said before about the safety car and not being able to pit in time, which would have kept his track position. But otherwise, like I say, I think for Lewis Hamilton now, what's a key performance indicator? I mean, based on the current setting with the cars and everything, he should be consistently thinking, right, I could maybe fight for a podium, a 3rd or 4th place, and get high amounts of points. That should be what his achievement would be, or his sort of how he'd be measured up. For me, I think they should be fighting for like 3rd, 4th, 5th place. Anything like that, and any sort of results like that would be on par and good, very good. Especially if he gets the gets a podium. So coming 10th, disappointment. Seeing George Russell coming 5th or 6th, Lewis should be. That's what I say. Lewis should be slightly ahead of him. So 3rd, 4th, 5th should be Lewis's bubble where he should be finishing consistently. If he's still the same Lewis Hamilton that we know before, if he hasn't lost heart, because now question marks coming out. Oh, is he disheartened from last season? Has he thought, I've given up now? I haven't got the motivation anymore. Driving, like not being able to sort of start up top anymore. When is he trying to sort of drive safely without maneuvering through the field? Like with the start of this race, I mean, it was really congested, wasn't it? So is he just driving carefully? Would the old Lewis have sort of gone for it more? There's so many question marks out there, and I think Lewis will answer them throughout the season, and we'll be in a better place to judge him maybe by the middle of the season.
Yeah. Next up then is the new boy at Haas, Kevin Magnussen. With his P9 in Jeddah, that means Haas has scored more points in consecutive rounds for the first time since 2019. What was your thoughts on Magnussen's race, Omondi?
Once again, I mean, after last week, he's on a high, and obviously finishing 9th this week. It's really good. It's really good, and he should be looking at his management team and everything else and saying, "Hey guys, I'm the man right now. I'm back, and I'm the man. So you better look after me and get me in there, and I will perform. And at this rate, they're going to be doing really well as a team. Based on Kevin alone. So he's done really well. It's been a real surprise because no one expected this. So long may it keep it up.
Yeah, yeah. Next up then, P8 was Pierre Gasly in the Alpha Tauri. He tweeted, "Happy with our first points of the year. P8, a lot of work ahead of us, but that's a positive starting point. Melbourne next." It didn't really have much to do in the race. A solid drive for Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, I support what you're saying there. I don't have much to say about him, to be honest. So yeah, like you said, solid drive. I didn't really follow him during the race or keep my eye on him too much. Didn't really, yeah, didn't really excite me. There's nothing going on. Yeah, I want to see more, and obviously his comments there speak volumes about moving on to the next race, getting their first points. These are achievements for them. They're happy about that, and hopefully they'll be developing the car and pushing themselves up there. They don't have a Mercedes engine, so they must be happy about that. So yeah, let's see what they can do.
Yep. Next up then, Lando Norris in the McLaren P7. Extremely encouraging P7 for Norris today. McLaren taking a good step. And Rosanna Tennant actually asked him, is the only way up? He said, no, the only way is not up for us. It can also be down. I love to be positive, but in the slow speed, we are really bad and we're a long way off. So P7 for Norris, the first points for him and the first points for McLaren in 2022. What was your thoughts on his race?
Yeah, I mean, it's great performance for the McLaren to be achieving like that, getting so far up the field, and seventh place is will they get higher than seventh place again this season? You don't know. You just don't know the way they're performing, and you can see with his comments there, he's not so optimistic himself. He's actually pessimistic about it, saying that it could get worse. Judging how slow they are at the moment. So I think, with Ricardo doing really badly, this is going to stick it up to Ricardo even more by a man getting points. It's showing that he can actually get something done, or get close to getting points with the McLaren. But it's really tough for these drivers right now, and a bit disheartening as well when you're saying stuff like that after something what you would expect to be an achievement.
Yeah, yeah. Next up then, P6 was Esteban Ocon in the Alpine. P6, best of the rest, no issues, solid drive. And he said, I really enjoy racing with Fernando. I know how far I can go with him. With these cars, it's like a kart race. The best defense is attack. What was your thoughts on Ocon's performance this weekend?
Weren't they going
P7?
at it? They were going at it. They were allowed to race.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that you do like to see that, and I think a good endorsement. He's endorsed Alonso there. You can't do nothing. Maybe Alonso's really backing him and giving him a lot of tips and experience from his experience that he has, and going to racing like they did together. That's really nice to see. That you want the teams to, especially when you're at a team like Alpine, if you're up there fighting for points and it's in a race to win something, then you can imagine they might be a bit more cautious about it. But when you're like that mid-table or maybe lower half, it's okay. I don't think there's any problem with it. And with the experience that Alonso has, I don't think there would be any sort of major incidents like that. There's a respect there from Ocon. It's like he's looking up to his master and saying, I'm really just happy to be driving with you. And he's learning from that quote. He seems to be learning a lot from him, and that's what you need. I think when to have like the perfect kind of team, you can have an experienced guy like Alonso in the team, and someone who's an up and comer. That's the good balance that they have. So there's good selection here from Alpine.
Yeah. Next up, a Mercedes of George Russell, P5. Credit must be given to George Russell. P5 was evidently the limit for Mercedes today, who still have plenty of progress to make. Do you agree with those comments, Omondi?
Yeah, it must be. I mean, George Russell's done really well with the placing. He's very consistent. We saw what happened in the qualifying where his teammate didn't get past P1. So yeah, to finish fifth, they said it in the comments. That was a great achievement for Mercedes, all things considered. And but what I do like about that quote is there's a lot of progress to make. So it shows to feel that to meet the rest, to catch up with the rest, they're maybe capable of doing it. How long it takes, that's the important thing. And it's all about timing now. They can't leave it too long and let the other teams get away or the other drivers get away from them. We want Mercedes. I think the whole world wants Mercedes to get back in it. And drives like this from George is only encouraging.
Yeah. Next up is Sergio Perez in the Red Bull. At the 215th attempt, Perez stuck it on pole. I think that's the longest, the highest amount of Grand Prix that someone has had to wait for a pole position in F1. It's also the 23rd nation on pole, with these nations being Australia, Britain, Germany, Brazil, France, Italy, the US, Austria, Spain, Canada, Belgium, Venezuela, Argentina, Colombia, Finland, Monaco, Netherlands, New Zealand, Poland, South Africa, Switzerland, and Sweden as well. He said after sticking it on pole, he said it took me a couple of races. I think that's a bit of an underestimate, to be honest. That was unbelievable. And he also said on the radio during the race, I think sometimes when you don't have the right luck, you cannot win the race. So what was your thoughts on Sergio Perez this weekend as a whole?
Oh, poor Checo, man. You can see that's the smile when he was giving the interview there. He's all teeth, and he's delighted. Look at that smile. Look at that. Look at the eye. You want to squeeze his cheek. He looks so happy and delighted with himself, and his eyes are all happy. So, yeah, that was before and after. Obviously, we saw the little emoji, broken heart, and he's gutted. He's clearly gutted. I mean, he was there. I mean, from pole, you got an opportunity to actually win the race. That would have been in his mind, and just really unfortunate, isn't it? What happened to him early in the race, and for him to be sort of dropped off because he can never really get back into it. So yeah, come on, Chico, get yourself another pole position, and then see how the team react to that, and get you first in the pit stops, and hopefully there won't be any sort of major instance like that, or where the safety car comes out and messes you up. Yeah, that was tough for him. I really feel sorry for him. But I want to see that smile again. Hopefully he can win a race this season and we can see that cheeky smile
again. Yeah. Next up then, Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. The longest active point streak in F1, 17 races. The longest active podium streak in F1, 3 races. Both of these records belonging to Carlos Sainz at the moment. He said after quali, my main limitation today was the new tyres. I just couldn't make them work. I did my Q3 run 1 on used tyres, and as soon as I put the new tyres, I realised the feeling was still not there. And he also said after the race, for me the race was a bit of progress from Bahrain. I managed to find a bit more rhythm with the car, still some tenths to find, but I think I will end up getting there. What was your thoughts on Carlos Sainz this weekend, Omondi?
Yeah, good race, just fair race. I mean, Leclerc, it's all about Leclerc, to be honest. He needs to get up there, and this is what I'm saying about these guys, Perez and Sainz. They need to really put pressure on the teammates because, like we said, it's round 2. You've got cars here that are winning, likely to win the championship, constructors championship as well. You've got cars here where you have got opportunity to win races, as we saw with Perez, you can got opportunity to get pole. So Carlos Sainz is right to be disappointed because opportunity is there right now. You only get this window. Very rare you get a window like this as a Formula One driver to have an opportunity like this. So he needs to step it up. He needs to put all his powers together and challenge Leclerc at least minimum. That's his first job. Challenge Leclerc and do what Perez did. Get ahead of him and get on the pole, for example, and stamp your name down and say, yeah, I'm about this, So it's going to be, if we start seeing that, it's going to be more exciting for F1 fans. It's going to be more exciting for the Red Bull versus Ferrari versus maybe Mercedes race. And we're going to have when was the last time we had 6 drivers all capable of winning a race, consistently by mid-season? That's what I would want to see by mid-season. I want to see where Russell, Lewis Hamilton, Max, Sainz, Leclerc, and Perez are all, when you go into a race thinking, I don't know who's going to win this one. That's what we want to see.
Yeah. And on to Carlos Sainz's teammate then, Charles Leclerc. Starting with FP1, he did actually miss the garage when he was going into the pits, which wasn't the greatest start to the weekend. On the team radio, he said, well done to Max. That was nice. After quali, he said, I'm very happy with the lap. I more or less put it together. Congratulations to Checo. He did an incredible job today. He also said after the race, it wasn't enough today, but oh my God, I really enjoyed that race. It's hard racing, but it's fair. Every race should be like this. It was fun. I'm obviously disappointed. I wanted to win today, and he said that there as well. So Charles Leclerc then this weekend, you can tell he's gracious in defeat, which is nice to see as well. What was your thoughts on Leclerc this weekend?
Look, I mean, he had an opportunity. He was up front. He was leading, and obviously he was overtaken. And you'd think, oh, he'd be gutted. But his reaction to that, by your quotes there, makes me like the guy. I mean, it's all sporting, isn't it? It's very, it's good sport. And when people say, oh, you're a good sport, that usually means you're a loser. I don't see it that way. I think he's a good sport. It's in giving praise to his opponent. That was a good move, or whatever he said about Max. That was a nice drive from Max, whatever, because obviously Max had to calculate how he's going to overtake him with the charging the battery at the right time. I can't remember the details. I remember at the race time, but obviously Max done a calculated move to get past him, and that was applauded by Leclerc. And you love to see that. I think I don't think that takes anything away from his competitive edge. It just shows that he's a gentleman, and I think that's really refreshing to see.
Yeah. And on to Max Verstappen then in the Red Bull. He, of course, won the race. It was his 21st career win, and it's now 7 seasons in a row that Verstappen has won a race, with that run starting in 2016 all the way to 2022, of course. And the first time a driver that has had number 1 on the car win since Sebastian Vettel in 2013. He tweeted, yes, boys, P1 feels amazing to be on top after such an exciting race. It was definitely not easy out there today, but but it's really nice to battle like that. Very happy we were able to put it all together and kickstart the season. His quali quote, Q1 and Q2, everything felt normal. My first run in Q3 was terrible. I had no grip. Honestly, I don't understand because there was not really anything weird going on. At least I know the car has very good potential because of Checo putting it on pole. And he said after the race, we were battling hard at the front. It was tough. I'm really happy we finally kick-started the season. Thoughts on Verstappen's weekend then, Omondi?
Let me firstly say Max is a quality driver. You can't deny it. He's a really, really good competitive driver. And I like his attitude. He's got that mentality where he wants to win. And you can see, I mean, when you listen to his radio some of the time, he's having a few problems and, the frustration, and you can hear it in his voice. He's a born winner. He wants to win. And he's malicious, as in he's like single-minded. He's got that kind of a grit about him where he doesn't give a damn, and that's good. That's good for sport. We've seen when we compare that to Leclerc, I can't imagine Max giving away such gratitude like that. But not to say he's any less of a gentleman or whatever. It's just a sportsman. And this is a good thing we have. You have a good sportsman in Leclerc, and you have a good sportsman also in Max, but he's a competitive guy. And he won't be sort of given away. He would probably see it as a sign of weakness to sort of promote someone else. So he did promote his teammate Perez and said for getting pole, but also said that just demonstrates kind of making an excuse. It's not really, but saying he didn't have the grip in the qualifying free, but it shows that the car is there. So he must be excited about the season and his expectations to maybe get a brace of titles. I mean, he must be Bookie's favourite right now, based on already having one title behind him, having a good car as well, and having the momentum from last season. Whatever you say about last season's victory in the championship, it's old news now. No one's really complaining about it anymore. We've got to move on, and I think at the moment it's like a new era of car, and we could say a new era of racers, because Hamilton, Alonso, Vettel, all these guys who used to win in the 2000s and the 2010s, they're sort of, it seems to me, maybe this is the time for Leclerc and Max, and we're starting to see a new battle of head-to-head battle, bumping heads at the top. So I really like Max. I know I like Max Lewis Hamilton. He's been one of my favorite drivers for a long time. But I have to say, when it comes to sport and competitiveness and that winning mentality, Max demonstrates that all. And long may it continue.
Yeah, hopefully. And now we'll move on to the teams, starting with Williams. Both drivers DNFing, an absolute disaster class.
I you know what? I don't want to sort of be disrespectful, but fix up. You know, Frank's gone. I don't know who's taken over, but you need to fix up, man. In the memory of Williams and Frank Williams, excuse me, in memory of Williams and Frank Williams, they're fighting over a bone, you know. The competitiveness, you know, that's what we need. They've got it too. But in the memory of Frank Williams and the legendary team that they have, I want to see them do better. They need to do better. They don't want to be bottom of the Constructors' Championship. That's terrible.
Yeah, they're showing more fight than Williams so far this season as well, the two dogs there. Next up is Aston Martin, also on 0 points. From 2010 to 2018, only once did Force India go more than 2 races without scoring points. Aston Martin haven't scored points in the last 4 races. It's not been great, has it?
Bring back Vettel. Then we'll see. Let's not judge them until Vettel comes back. I think Vettel, around the whole team, he's got a good personality. He's maybe have some good ideas throughout practice and all these sessions. So not have him around, maybe that's where, until we can assess it, that's where they're falling down. So bring back Vettel and then let's have a good look at them.
Yeah. Next up then, McLaren. McLaren into Q2 with both cars. Immense progress for the Woking team. You can tell after race 2, you can tell the difference between Bahrain and Saudi Arabia for McLaren, can't you?
Yeah, I think like we keep saying, I mean, we want to see more from McLaren. Same with Williams. I think Williams are well off, but McLaren, I know they had negative comments from Stroll about the performance and, you know, how slow the car is, but they just got to keep fighting, and you never know. You might get conditions one day where everything goes for you, you know, but you just got to you can't put your head down. And like I say, we've got one guy in Ricardo who's just like completely on a downer right now. And then you got Stroll as well, who's somebody who picked up points, you know, and overachieved. So it's the team needs to step up. The team really needs to step up. Excuse me. The team needs to step up now and represent for the name, for the tradition, everything else. Represent, and yeah, the two drivers can make a name for themselves. You know, Ricardo coming back from this dip, and Stroll, you know, proving that he's got a little something about him.
Yeah. Next up is AlphaTauri with only one car starting this one, and Gasly got into P8, with Tsunoda not starting due to mechanical issues. Thoughts on AlphaTauri this weekend, Omondi?
So where did they finish? Sorry, I missed that.
P8 for Gasly.
P8.
Tsunoda
Good, yeah,
didn't.
good finish. Yeah, like we said with Gasly, good finish, and hopefully he's saying like for Australia, hopefully they'll be better suited and start stepping it up now. Like you say, they haven't got a Mercedes engine, so anything can happen for them.
Yeah. Next up, then, Alfa Romeo, a completely fresh driver lineup from last season. Bottas into Q3 again, 11th and 8th, I think it was, for Bottas. So more points for the team. What was your thoughts on Alfa Romeo this weekend?
Yeah, good week. You've got two motivated drivers, one in Bottas who wants to prove to the world that he's not a flop. Not that he ever was a flop, but he's not. Like, he's been relegated from Mercedes, for example. He's got a lot to prove to Mercedes, to the world, that he's a good driver. And then you got the Chinese guy as well, who's he's the Chinese guy, isn't it? Yeah, he came 11th.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Who's obviously motivated and got the whole nation, billions of people behind him. So it's going to be an interesting season for the Alfa Romeo. It's a good choice of drivers.
Yeah. Yeah, you can. I think people are now realizing how good Bottas actually is after he's left Mercedes to go to a slightly worse team.
Do you
Next
think?
up,
Sorry,
go
do you
on.
think it's because of the experience he gained at Mercedes? Or do you think he was a good driver before that?
Yeah, I think Mercedes will have definitely helped. Yeah, especially being alongside one of the greatest of all time, Lewis Hamilton. That's always going to help as well. And I think George Russell will come along leaps and bounds until Hamilton leaves
Yeah,
the sport, of course, as well. Next up then is Haas, with on the post race team radio. Gunter said, "We'll get more of this in Melbourne. It's coming soon. You know that." Haas was somewhat disappointed with P9. The progress is immense from last season, isn't it?
oh, big time, and that's really promising to hear from the top guy saying that Melbourne's going to be a lot better for them. So they must know something that we don't know, but we do know something because we've seen something already this season from Haas, especially from Magnussen. Yeah, long may we continue for those two, for the two drivers, especially Magnussen. He's showing the way, and I think it's just giving a lot of confidence to the team, as you can hear from their quote there.
Yeah. Next up is Alpine, with P5 and P7 in qualifying, and the Alonso Ocon battle was a little borderline. These two could be one of the best pairings in the midfield, but things were a bit too close for comfort. Ocon did make a slightly questionable defensive move. Sorry. Would you agree with that? Was the battle a bit borderline?
I was saying earlier, I was happy for the battle. I was as a fan. I think that their experience, especially Alonso, is a very experienced driver. I don't think they'd be doing anything stupid. Obviously, at that sort of speed and you're racing, they're criticising Ocon. Is it Ocon? Sorry,
Yeah.
to say that he was his defensive move, that kind of thing. But I think they're being a bit too critical here. What we should be doing is promoting them, saying, "Well, isn't it fantastic to see a team being able to race like that?" And on a race course which is extremely fast, and there was zero accidents from the team either. So you got to be positive about it and encourage that kind of thing.
Yeah. Next up, Red Bull, a big improvement from Bahrain, of course, P1 and P4, but disappointing for Perez and another win for Verstappen.
Yeah, like you said, we've gone through this with Perez, gutted. We want to see his shiny smile again, but Max stepped up, delivered, to close down on Leclerc, got the win. Ruthless and calculated and ruthless with his overtake, the way he manoeuvred his way around there and used every part of the car and every part of his experience and race strategy to get past his man in the end. So that was great to see. Long may it continue. We want to see more of this real hardcore racing.
Yeah. Next up is Mercedes, Hamilton P10, Russell P5. Thoughts on Mercedes this weekend?
They got issues, man. They've got issues, haven't they? And they're the ones leading light. I think if they start improving, the whole Mercedes engine teams will be encouraged by that. But at the moment, if the Mercedes aren't doing well, then all these other teams are thinking, "My gosh, where are we going with this?" So Mercedes represent not just themselves, but they represent the whole team that are carrying their engines, and will be encouraged if they see some improvements, because then they could probably get a few whispers and sort of find out what's really going on with these cars and how you can get the most out of them to get more speed, because that's the one thing they're lacking right now is race speed.
Yeah. Finally, the final constructors, Ferrari. There was a slight change to the car with the driver numbers this weekend as well, with the yellow and the white highlighting around the numbers there. What was your thoughts on Ferrari this weekend?
Yeah, it was really good. Obviously, they've got in the points again. They're top of the Constructors' Championship. They got a second place with Leclerc when they could have got a win. So they shouldn't be too disappointed. I mean, they know they're in the fight, but they know they've got like some really good drivers in their stable, and they know they've got a good car. So they'll be looking into the next race, and most races now thinking we can win it. They should be setting out to qualify 1 and 2 and win races. That should be their priority.
Yeah. Next up, driver of the weekend. Who you gonna give it to?
Oh boy, I will have to say Max. The reason I'm saying Max, obviously his starting position, he started in 4th, and then the overtake at the end gave him maximum points. The way he maneuvered it, the way he got around his man. I'm trying to think of anyone else who sort of outperformed himself. Ocon in Alpine, even though I didn't see any sort of, I can't recall any sort of, it's just a placing for him where he's done well. And Magnussen with 9th as well. It's not as good as last week, but still improvement. And he got my driver of the week last week, Magnussen. But yeah, I'll give it to Max basically for the race win, starting in 4th, and end up with that great overtake at the end.
Yeah, and team of the weekend. Who are you gonna give it to?
Sorry about this. I'm just trying to think now.
It's a tough one.
Yeah. So where did the Hasses finish? You got 9th?
And Schumacher didn't race because of the qualifying.
Sorry, yeah. You know what? Can you go with one? I mean, I'm not. I'm trying to think who deserves to get team of the weekend.
It's tough, to be honest. I'd probably go Ferrari for the double podium.
Okay. We wouldn't say Mercedes.
It weren't a great weekend for Hamilton, though, was it?
But he gained 5 places, and he could have been ended up 6th or something if it weren't for that thing. But obviously that's ifs and buts. All right, yeah. Maybe Ferrari then.
Got Red Bull as well, stuck it on pole and won the race as well. So it's between Ferrari and Red Bull for me.
Yeah. Okay, I'll go Ferrari then because they've increased their gap on top. Well, not increased it. Well, they have actually from Mercedes.
Yeah, you've got McLaren as well for a big improvement from Bahrain as well. Would you go for them?
No, because what's his name? Ricciardo. Yeah, he messed up. Well, Bottas. He got 11th place with Sue, and Bottas got 8th. Did he?
Yeah, I think so.
So that's a good. Maybe that team then. Bottas and Sue. Yeah. Alfa Romeo. Yeah, I'll say Alfa Romeo then. I know it sounds. I don't want to give it to the top 2 because their performance is so much better, isn't it? So I say Alfa Romeo.
Yeah. And that's it then for this race reaction. Just before we wrap it up, where can we find you, mate?
You can find me hopefully on Apex here with you guys. Like I say, I'm just learning about the sport. It's great to sort of talk about the sport like this with someone who's so knowledgeable in Charlie. Sorry about the dogs today. They're fighting over a bone, and these guys are fighting over the championship, and it's going to be, more exciting than watching my dogs go at it, over a silly bone. But what we saw here with my dogs, you got one who's competitive and growling, and one who sort of was a good sport and just decided to give up the bone, rather than race and fight for another day. And that's what we saw, like Leclerc and Max, But you can find me in the Man United agenda. I'm going on at 8:30 tonight. We're doing a preview show for the weekend. Football's back. Obviously, Charlie as well covers all kinds of sports. He's done the World Cup draw prior to this, and now he's doing F1, and he's obviously going to cover Burnley and Manchester City the weekend as well as many other sports as well. So I've just got to salute Charlie for all the hard work he's putting in. Make sure you subscribe to his channels, all of them, the F1 and the football, and set the little alarm bell as well, ding-a-ling-a-ling. So when he's setting something up or put the show out, you can be the first to watch and tune in. So big up to Charlie. Thanks again for having me on, and hopefully we see you at Melbourne, post-match Melbourne.
Yeah. Cheers for that, Omondi, mate. You can find me here, Hit the Apex on YouTube, Dugout Daily on YouTube, Dugout Daily, the football channel, Hit the Apex, the F1 channel, and at MTFC Hibs on Twitter. And we'll wrap it up there. So everybody, take care, and we'll see you all soon.